Welcome to the Cue the Spotlight podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Logan Stacer.
And I'm your other host, Michaela Stacer.
And we're going to get started with a little bit of Kansas City news. So, first up, Kansas City hero Travis Kelce hosted Saturday Night Live last weekend, which is super encouraging for us because it shows all you need to do to host Saturday Night Live is have a podcast.
A new bill hopes to provide tax incentives to bring filmmakers to Missouri. And I'm hoping for a Wizard of Oz sequel that's not in Kansas anymore.
All of Missouri's professional sports teams are eager to legalize sports betting, but none more than the Chiefs, who want to bet on how many new fans think the team is located in Kansas.
And a cow tick is causing deaths across the United States. But this cow tick isn't to be confused with cow talk, which is a subsection of TikTok of cute cows that is currently giving me life.
Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of Cue the Spotlight. This is a new podcast being hosted by myself and my wife. We are not related. Makes people just look the same.
Well, we are related, but by marriage, not parents.
Right. And every week we're going to be talking about life in the entertainment industry in Kansas City and the Midwest and beyond. And this week, what better way to get started than by talking about ourselves and our stories in the entertainment industry? And so how we're going to do this is I'm going to interview you, and then you're going to interview me.
I am.
Great. So let's just jump right into it. So, Michaela, tell us, what kind of artist do you self-identify as?
I would say that I identify as a writer, actor, and an aspiring freestyle rapper.
An inspiring freestyle rapper?
And aspiring, not to be confused with spiraling.
Oh yeah, I mean, inspiring freestyle rapper would be interesting.
That could be the title of my mixtape, Spiraling Freestyle Rapper.
That's good. We'll have to circle back to that. So how'd you get started writing?
Yeah, so I got started when I was young. My memories don't go back quite as far, so it's a little fuzzy, but I believe I started writing when I was in elementary school, and I was writing a play, and I think I didn't even have like real paper. There was like Apple sticky notes and all these different things that I was writing. But the first thing I really remember writing was in 8th grade, I wrote a book.
In 8th grade?
Yeah. So
how old were you, said?
Like 14. Yeah.
Wow.
So I wrote my first book when I was 14, my first and only book. And it was a drama.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So as a 14-year-old, what was your process?
Oh, yeah. So it was for an assignment. So really, I had, I think, a quarter, half a semester to get this book done. And so my process was, I think I would consistently just set aside time to write. And my grandma was my copy editor. So my grandma was copy editing my manuscript. And she's actually the person who helped fund the self-publishing of the book. And so that was my process. And then after the book was published, my family put together a book signing at a library. And so we
you're a whole professional.
sold copies of my book in the public library. Yeah, a whole entrepreneurial journey at 14.
Good. So starting with the book, what other kind of writing did you do, or did you stay writing? What came after your debut novel?
Yeah, after my debut novel was a lot of teen angst journaling about my feelings and everything going on and all of that kind of stuff. And I didn't write again until I was in college, and I wrote my first play in college.
Okay, so what'd you do between 14 and college? You just stopped doing art? What was between that?
So I had my Troy Bolton moment where I had to choose between, do I pursue the arts? Do I play softball? Because I was an avid softball player. I played t-ball and played consistently. And so my junior year, I think, is the year where I realized I can't do both. I can't do all the plays and softball. And so I started doing plays more. My junior year, quit softball. And then all throughout high school, I did forensics, not science forensics. I don't like blood, so I would never work in a science forensics field. But acting and improv. So I really got into improv in high school.
Improv.
And you know that because that's how we met.
It is how we met.
Yes. improvised duet acting partners for life.
Yeah, you want to tell people a little bit about what improvised duet acting is?
Yeah, so forensics is an interesting thing. You get a bunch of teenagers together, they dress up to look professional and compete in rooms with adults and read poems. And for improvised duet acting, you would draw, I think, 3 characters. So, and then you would draw 3 locations and 3 situations.
Yep.
And then you and your partner would pick 2 characters, 1 situation, 1 location. You had, what was it, like 30 minutes,
30 minutes
to
yeah.
prep. And then you go in a room and it's timed. I think, do we have like 8 minutes, 10 minutes?
Something like that.
Yeah. And so then we perform this little thing for an adult and then they judge us on a piece of paper. And then you either advance to finals or you don't. So that was how Logan and I met, where our love story began.
So you went from, doing theater, a little bit of improv, a little bit of writing. How'd you get better? Like, what was your process of, you knew this is what you wanted to do, you're doing it regularly, but what was your process of like improving as a writer, as an actor?
Yeah, so in college, I studied theater. And what was really cool about that is I got to learn all aspects of theater. And so I would say as an actor, one way that I got better was being able to take direction. So I think that's very valuable for any artist is you have to be able to take criticism. You have to be able to take the critique because you can always improve. And I'm not to like throw shade, but there's always someone better than you that you can learn from. And so I feel like just putting myself out there and auditioning. And then after college, I wanted to pursue film instead of theater. And so I was like, let me do film and TV. So I moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
And there, this person, I met them on set. I was an extra in something. My adventures as an extra were very interesting. And so when I was an extra, I met this girl on set and she was just encouraging me and talking about how, it's not about booking the one thing. Like it takes 50 to 100 auditions before you book something. And so instead of focusing on, oh man, I didn't book this and I didn't book that, I just started focusing on, let me get to that 50 or 100 auditions because I will eventually book something. And so just focusing on auditioning more and just putting the reps in. And I think as a writer too, it is about putting those reps in, making those terrible first drafts and then being able to revise them and revisit them and just continuing to create work and put stuff out there.
Yeah, that's a super important part of like the artist journey is that season of life where you are getting the reps in and maybe not to share it with anyone, maybe not to make money off of it, but really just to get better at your craft. So it sounds like Atlanta was that opportunity for you. I'm curious, while we have you, if you can give any free game to our viewers, free game either about writing, acting.
Yeah, so my free game would be that there's no such thing as writer's block except the block of time you set aside to write.
Wow.
And so for me, I'm a grad student right now studying psychology, but because I am so busy with a bunch of different things, I had to set aside blocks of time to actually do my homework. And I think it's applicable to writing too, is set aside a block of time. That's what I would do when I was younger and crank out whatever it is. And if it's terrible, it's terrible, but at least you cranked out something to edit. And so I guess that's my free game. Create your own writer's block, but really it's just a period of time to write.
That's good. There you go. Put that in your calendar. Put down your writer's block, and that'll even change your relationship with that word because I feel like writer's block is like a cuss word, honestly, to creatives. But if you have a writer's block that you schedule and that's your block to write, that's good. That's really good. I like that. I like that. So you went from high school doing improv, writing, then you went to college. You said you wrote a play while you were in college too?
Yeah, in college, a little bit of my teen angst got, I guess, shaved off of me, and I started writing comedy.
Nice. So talk about this transition to comedy. Where do you think, is that more comfortable for you, or is that like where you want to continue to pursue?
Yes, absolutely. I love comedy. So I don't have a lot of interest in pursuing dramatic writing again, per se.
Okay.
What I mostly write now is comedy, and I love it. That's mostly what I watch too. People will be like, watch this show. And I'm like, is it a comedy? So yeah.
So I'm curious then, you said you went to Atlanta. What year was that?
Right before COVID, so 2019.
Okay, so 2019. So you were out of college for a little bit, went to Atlanta. It's 2023 now. So I'm curious, now that you've matured a little bit in your career, have you had any mentors or professional development opportunities, or like, obviously learning the skill when you're younger is different than trying to be a professional, which is what I think all artists aspire towards. So who have been some people who have helped you on that journey, or what have been some opportunities that you found to, I guess, continue towards being, like a paid artist?
Yeah. So one thing is, after Atlanta, so I was exposed to a lot of TV scripts with how much I was auditioning, and I was inspired to actually write my own TV script. And so I wrote a half-hour comedy pilot, and then I was introduced to this festival. It's called the Catalyst. Well, they've changed their name, but it's Catalyst. Story Road was their program at the time.
Yeah.
And I believe it's still like the Catalyst Festival. And so that festival has a program attached to it, and it's to help develop episodic creators. And so I was in that program, and they would talk all different aspects of the television industry, but also I learned how to pitch. So I was able to create a pitch for the show. They would do pitch coachings. Wow. And we would get feedback. And then I actually entered my script in the festival, and it was selected as a finalist in the festival. And then I pitched my show, and I won Outstanding Comedy Pitch across the festival. And so that was really cool, because that was the first ever pitch I had done. But it really does show that, like, through like feedback and getting that good like education, you can excel. And so because of that, I was able to get a mentor, and she was phenomenal. She was in the television industry, and she really helped me develop as a comedic writer. And it helped me because she actually read my script, gave me feedback. Good. And then I started working on rewrites. And it was interesting because it's one thing to say, yeah, I'm going to rewrite that, I'm going to fix those jokes, I'm going to punch it up. It's another thing for another person to be like, yeah, I need to see this in a month, so where are your rewrites? And so it's also good to have accountability, I think, because it can get discouraging. You work on all this stuff, and where's it going? What's going to happen? But to have people there that are cheering you on, or there to give you honest feedback. I mean, it's great to have people who are encouraging, but you also need people who are encouraging and can tell you, like, hey, that joke's not funny. So so that was really awesome to learn from her and be able to work with her. That's the beauty of technology. We just Zoomed because she was in New York, and that was amazing.
Nice. So this television script that you got, is that something you're still working on, or is there a different project that you have right now that you're working on cooking up?
Yeah, so right now my project is grad school. My project is graduate from grad school and maintain A's in my classes. The pilot script is definitely something that I do want to develop. I really want to have it shot in Kansas City.
Nice.
So right now it's just kind of on hold until more things kind of unfold with that. And then in terms of writing, I kind of always write, I feel like, either whether it's journaling or writing blogs that no one's going to see right now because I won't publish them on my website yet. So
it's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. Yes. He knows I keep redesigning it, changing the layout, redesigning. I'm like, wow, my website's so beautiful. No one's ever seen it because I've locked it. So yeah, one day it will be out there.
Nice. So grad school, what are you studying?
Yeah, right now I'm studying. This is so funny you ask me these questions, though, because you know what I'm studying. You watch me do my homework.
But that's okay, because they don't.
But they don't know, yes. But I'm getting my master's in counseling psychology right now.
And as an artist, how I know that you're only a couple weeks into grad school, but what have you learned so far in learning about psychology that can be applied to writing or can be applied to acting? Or is there any overlap between psychology and being an artist at all?
Oh, absolutely. I think that I'm only a couple weeks into grad school, just hit my first midterm, but I would say there's a lot of overlap. I think as an actor, you do have to understand some aspects of psychology because you're developing and embodying characters. And so I'm very intrigued to see how my acting changes with a deeper understanding of how the mind works, how it's all working together. And then last night we were learning about how to learn. We're literally learning how to learn and the best ways to learn, and about behavior and behavior modification. And I think being able to modify your behavior for any artist, like being able to change your mindsets, being able to say, hey, I'm going to set this goal and I'm going to reach it. Like knowing there's very practical things in psychology. I mean, we all have brains. So
we do.
Psychology is for all of us, even as artists. And I think knowing how it works, because I think your mind can work against you sometimes. Like we can be our own biggest critics, the one who holds us back the most. So knowing how to like have your mind work with you, not against you, I think is really, really valuable for any artist.
Nice. The kind of writing that you do is writing about psychology, or does psychology affect your writing at all?
I would say I'm not as deep in psychology enough, I guess, to see a big impact on my writing. I have had to start doing academic writing. But one thing that I noticed that translates from like academic writing versus creative writing is when I was in that program, a big thing was about point of view for artists, to be able to have a unique point of view. No one can tell your story the way you can tell your story. And so I think that having a point of view, no matter what kind of artist you are, is so valuable. And even as someone in wanting to be in the field of psychology, I can see even in my academic writing, I have my own point of view. And so trying to bring my point of view into all my work, because I'm me.
Yeah.
And so writing like I'm me, not writing like I'm trying to be like someone else.
Cool. So writing like you're you leads me to this next part that I'm very excited. So you said you wrote a book when you were 14.
Yes.
And luckily we have a copy of that book here with us. Tell us a little bit. I want to have you read some of this, but before you get into it, is there anything else, any more context you want to give about this book?
Yeah, so this book, oh my goodness, the cover is me running through the woods by my house when I was a middle schooler. I'm a middle schooler running through the woods, and my mom on some camera just snapped this photo of me, and we were like, yeah, this would be a great cover. So that's what's going on there. And then there's bookmarks. This is hilarious. I found these today. These bookmarks, I made like an email. I made a Facebook page.
Wow.
But if
Are they still active?
If anyone tries to email me, I don't know the password or the recovery email. And the Facebook page, though, was still active not that long ago. I don't remember if I deactivated it or not. But yeah, so that's my book. It's 114 pages. I wrote it when I was 14. And when I think about it now, I cringe inside because I'm like, wow, I have gotten better at writing.
That's good.
Thank God.
That's a good thing to cringe about.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Like as an artist, if you can look back and cringe and be like, whoa, what was that I made? That's great because obviously you've grown. I mean, because I guess if I read this and thought this is the best writing of my life, then I mean, I was 14 and I didn't improve at all. And it's over 10 years later. So
Well, would you like to grace us with a dramatic reading
yes.
of Captured?
Let's see. Should I do a random page or should I pick just chapter 1, paragraph 1?
Let's just jump into it. Chapter 1, paragraph 1. People know what to expect.
Yes, this is Captured Author. Or no, it's not Captured Author. I'm the author. Oh boy. That's what my Facebook page is called. That's why I said that. It's Captured Author. So if you want to try to find that Facebook page, that's what you look for. Still has my maiden name, Michaela Sullivan. Wow. Copyright 2011.
Wow. Throwback for you right here.
This is powerful. Okay.
It's before the world ended in 2012.
Yes. Here we go. Chapter 1. The mirror was screaming at me. I felt torn. The person reflecting back wasn't me. It couldn't be. It wasn't possible. The long brown hair, deep ocean blue eyes, and creamy skin were the same. But something about her expression was off. I moved my right hand and waved. She waved back. I screamed. She opened her mouth and mimicked my action. I tried to smile, and she attempted the same movement. I'm going insane, I thought. Thank you.
Producer, can we get some claps? There we go.
Yes. 14-year-old. See, teen angst was in full effect.
Yeah, what was going on? What were you going through there?
That's for another time.
Fair.
This is fiction. This is not about my life. This is a fictional story.
It's not a 14-year-old's autobiography.
No.
Okay.
Not quite. If it was my autobiography, it would be a very dark autobiography. Yes.
So, good news for anyone viewing. We actually, in preparing for this episode, found a box of these books.
We didn't find, I'd like to clarify, he made me go into the closet, dig out this box that was in my mother's basement that was hiding, and then I put it in my basement. Well, I don't have a basement, I have a closet. I live in an apartment. But I hid it in my apartment, and he was like, yeah, let's take that with us.
So we have 15 copies of this book.
And there's no way for us to recreate this book.
So these are the last 15 available copies of this book
Yes.
in existence. So if you're watching this and are interested in receiving a signed copy of 14-year-old Michaela's masterwork, Captured, let us know. Hit us up, DM us. So email us, cuethespotlight@gmail.com. So 15 of y'all, signed copy.
Maybe only 14 of you, though, because I might keep one for myself.
There you go. It's even more rare. So get that before get that before she blows up, and it'll be worth something. So
wow, what a throwback.
So where you're at now, just tell us about, like, your professional goals as a writer, as an actor, as a psychologist. What's next for Michaela Stacer?
Yes. So I would say one of my top goals, something that has really been on my heart to do, is I want to be a comedic motivational speaker.
Nice.
And so I want to be somebody who can talk about psychology, talk about, faith. My faith's like really important to me. So like I could talk about Jesus, I could talk about psychology, but I want to be able to talk about mental health and wellness and just have a good time meeting people, but also being able to share the wisdom and some of the things that hopefully I will learn in grad school that I can pass on to others.
That's good. Is the acting and the writing anywhere, like television at all, or?
So my comedic pilot that I've written, it's still out there. I still want to make it.
Nice.
So that is one of my goals. If I could make that before I leave this earth, that would be great.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, wife.
You're welcome, husband.
This is a handshake. She's leaving me hanging.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Thank you so much. So that's our intermission, and this is where we would thank our sponsor. But right now we're gonna thank No Solutions Production Network, our happy host of our podcast. But if you want to sponsor our podcast, also hit us up after you buy your copy of the book. So now we're gonna go into part 2.
Yeah, where I interview my husband, put him in the hot seat, get down to it. So first up, what kind of artist would you say you identify as?
That's a great question. So I am multiracial. So being a multi-hyphenate also feels very comfortable for me, doing many things at once. And to summarize all of it, I would say actor, writer, and like creative director. Anything involving like writing or saying words. For myself or for other people, helping other people write or say words, I do that. And that's short answer. Do
you do other things?
Well, I have done other things throughout time and space. It kind of started with poetry and stand-up, television writing, sketch comedy. But yeah, right now my main focus is in live performance and television writing.
Awesome. So when did you start? What's your origin story? Did you have a Troy Bolton moment like me?
I kind of did. Ball was life. I was a hooper since 3rd grade, and I was little. So I'm 6'1" now. That's what it says on my driver's license, at least. But
his hair makes him a little taller.
Hair makes me a little taller. But when I was a freshman in high school, I was like 5'1", maybe 5'3". And I did make the basketball team as a freshman. I made the freshman team. And then my sophomore year, when it was either JV or varsity, I was cut from the team. Probably because the same day I was cut from the basketball team, I went and performed a musical. So I also did theater at the same time I was doing basketball. So it's not like I had to choose. The choice got made for me. And luckily, I had theater to help me rebound. And so, I got into theater as a sophomore, and I was also doing forensics, speech and debate with you. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that
we were partners for a scene.
we were partners for a whole season, actually.
No,
And-
for a scene in class.
Oh yeah. So we were this is probably the real origin story. So
Yes.
was it the Glass Menagerie?
I don't know what it was because I only remember you getting mad and throwing the stapler.
I really feel like it was the Glass Menagerie. So we were in theater class together doing a scene from, I'm pretty sure it was the Glass Menagerie. I hope I'm saying that right because I've said it like 6 times now. And I was so adamant that I would be memorized
Yeah, he's like,
for
I'm
my
gonna be off
peers.
book.
And no one else was memorized. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Because it wasn't even part of the assignment. I don't even think we had to be memorized.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm sitting here with my future wife. I got to flex. This was 15-year-old me. And in sophomore theater class. And like halfway through, not even halfway through, maybe like I feel like we were close to the end and I was like, yeah, I'm killing this. I'm memorized. And then I forgot my line and I was so mad and all I had was a stapler. And so during the scene, I like throw the stapler and I'm like, give me the script. And I was just so mad. And so I fumbled the bag there. But yeah, so I was doing theater. We were doing improvised duet acting. And then eventually I got into writing poetry. And yeah, high school is a time for me.
For all of us.
For all of us.
So what do you think has made you a better, I guess you can pick one discipline, but we'll start with writing. What's made you a better writer then? Because that seems to be one of your primary focuses now.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of different opportunities to write different kinds of things. And so like I said, in high school, it was poetry. But then when I went to college, I started doing stand-up comedy. And I didn't know that comics did the same jokes every time. So every time I would go to like an open mic, I would just write a whole new set.
Oh.
And so I was just writing jokes all the time, still doing poetry around campus and, writing speeches. I was on the speech team at Kansas State University. So I was performing a lot, writing a lot, and just getting in the reps, I think. But then I went to New York and got into a master's program at New York University in arts politics.
As a comedian,
yeah. I applied as a socially conscious comedian, and I wrote this whole research paper, a rhetorical autoethnography about... Okay, I'm going to nerd out here because I like to talk about this. So academic writing is also a form of writing. So what I did was I studied a bunch of comedians. And I was like, this is what I learned from studying these comedians. I'm going to take what I learned, write a comedy set, do the comedy set, and then study my own comedy set to draw conclusions about how to learn about comedy, specifically when talking about like important issues. And so that paper, 1, got me to graduate college, but 2 was my writing sample to get into NYU. So I applied with a paper about being a comedian. They didn't even like see my comedy body of work. They're just like, this kid's nerdy. We like him. So I got into NYU, and on my way to there, I got accepted into this hip hop theater program at the New York Public Theater called #Bars. I was in the 4th cohort. And there I was learning about hip hop theater, and I was like, well, this is a completely new thing. And then that by the time school started, I was like, I don't even want to do comedy anymore. I just want to do as much as I can. So when I was in school, I started learning about playwriting. I started learning about screenwriting, writing essays. And so when I was in New York, I also took sketch comedy classes. So I was writing sketch. So I just was always just hungry to learn about how to write as many different forms as I could. And that's when I was like 22, going on 23. And so that season of my life was just so much intake about like how to write, and it translates, writing poetry made me a better comedy writer because, set up punchline, or writing comedy made me a better essay writer because my essays could be serious but a little funny. So it all just worked together. All just worked together.
So with all of that, what would be one piece of free game?
Yes,
that you have for our listeners.
Yeah. This is specifically for scripted or anything. Well, it's anything that involves dialogue, because this is advice that I got that changed my writing ability, and it was so simple, but it was like, when you're writing dialogue, don't let your characters ask questions unless they really have to. Because I would write a scene and it'd be like, well, why'd you do that? Why'd you think I do that? Oh, what is this? What do you think? Like, it was so easy to just like advance the narrative through questions, but being able to have like direct sentences that they could respond to just built the drama and built the tension so much more. So that's my free game.
There we go.
Control F, put in the question mark, see how many question marks are in your script, and try and rewrite all those sentences without question marks.
Very cool.
Free game.
Free game.
Free game.
So what's one thing in your portfolio that you have not shared or that you're nervous to share?
Yeah. It is a thing that I started to write when I was at NYU. It's a one-person show, and it is called When Blood Rips. And so like I said, I'm multiracial. Growing up in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County, super diverse place. And, you know, there's a lot of people of different races, different backgrounds, different social classes. And so up until like when I was in high school, I didn't really think anything about like diversity. You know, everyone was something or two or three things. And being on the basketball team, the track team, cross country, theater, debate, I was just with everybody. So I was never felt like othered, especially, you know, in Wyandotte County. And then I go to Kansas State, and there, you know, I'm mixed, and it's a much bigger campus, a lot less diverse campus. And so my junior year of college was really when I started to go to Black Student Union meetings, because I was super insecure, like, oh, am I even Black enough to go to Black Student Union meetings? You know, the whole mixed person thing. And but I went to the Black Student Union meetings, and that, you know, started growing my hair out and, like, you know.
Yeah, you used to not have that hair.
Yeah, I used to have, like, short hair.
So short, yeah.
But then I was like, I learned about coconut oil. That's my other free game. Coconut oil cleared my acne. I had horrible acne until I was 20. Started putting coconut oil in my hair. Acne gone. It was crazy. Yeah, just learning about Black culture, Black history, and really feeling a sense of pride in Black history. So that was like my junior year. And so I had like 2 good years of like great Black. And then when I'm in New York, my dad lives in Connecticut, so I'm spending more time with my dad's family. And I learned my dad's middle name comes from like a Native American lineage. And I'm like, yo, I just realized like what it meant to be Black. And now I got to think about what it means to have like a Native American name. You know, my dad's middle name is Native American. It's so Native American, there's controversy about how to pronounce it. It's spelled Lantye. My dad pronounces it Lantic, and the other parts of the family pronounce it Lanty. So, you know, it comes from somewhere. And so now I'm reading about Native American culture and Native American history while still learning about Black culture and Black history. And then still like, oh yeah, I'm also like white too. And so that experience with different, you know, each culture has its own sort of like mysticism and rituals and ancestry and relationships to ancestors. And so all that was starting to converge just in my brain. And I was like, let me write a show about all of these things. But at the time, I was not a good enough writer, I think, to capture that. Captured. Another promotion. To capture that. And, but there's a draft of it somewhere. And maybe I'll revisit that if I...
You can set aside a writer's block.
Wow. Free game.
There you go. So if you're alone in the office for 2 hours, I know you're working on your script.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So you kind of have talked about it a little bit, but what has been some of the best professional development opportunities that you've had?
Yeah.
Or that you could recommend to others?
Yeah. So the biggest one for me was the bars workshop. I got to work with super talented artists, got to learn from very talented professionals, in a super, that's when like Hamilton was popping off. And so like everyone was trying to rap and do theater. And I got to learn from, people who are in that world. And that was just brilliant to go from such, because speech and debate was so like rigid, like here are the rules and you're in a suit, like you said, and you're in a classroom. And it was just, you got the sense of like how to perform, but that really helped break me out of those rules and teach me how to express myself in a super unique way. So that bars workshop was life-changing. And I also mentioned the Upright Citizens Brigade. They have online classes. So even if you're in Kansas City, they have sketch writing classes. They have pilot writing classes. So plug in Upright Citizens Brigade, UCB Comedy Training Center. Super accessible, pretty affordable, and definitely worth the value. I've taken 2 of their classes, and then when I was in New York, I got to work with the Broadway Advocacy Coalition, and they were doing really great work with arts advocacy. So working with them was dope, and I got all that in like a year and a half in New York. So and I'm not saying you got to go to New York, but there was what was the name of that festival that came to Kansas City last year? Coop came back.
Yes.
ASX. Art and Soul Experience.
Yes.
The Art and Soul Experience is a new festival that just started in Kansas City last year, and we got to go to that, and a bunch of celebrities or just working professionals who are from Kansas City came back and gave us free game for real.
They had workshops, so you would go and you'd get to hear them speak, and it was about art, also entrepreneurship. There was meetings about that as well. So that's very new.
Yeah.
But that was really cool.
Yeah, so
very valuable for people in Kansas City
to
be on the lookout for.
Yes, it's going to be like our South by Southwest, the Art and Soul Experience. So yeah, that's a couple things, and just being around professionals really, and being able to get feedback from professionals, I think is super important to any artist's development. And so any opportunity, I mean, even, cold emailing people or cold Instagram people, if you have like specific questions or if you want feedback, you just got to get feedback. Finding people to give feedback is super important.
Yeah, and being able to take the feedback.
Yeah. Especially as a writer. And there are, yeah,
because they talk about, my mentor had talked to me about, you might have a joke and you love it, but if it's not working, take it out, set it aside.
There were 2 jokes that I wrote for this episode.
They didn't make the cut.
They didn't make the cut, but they're still good jokes, and I still got them saved somewhere, so they'll
His
come
wife
back.
gives him a lot of feedback.
Yes, she does. Always constructive.
You have built-in feedback. Yes. So what's something that you're working on right now that you're proud of? Or
Yeah, so I've mentioned a lot of different disciplines: acting, writing, directing, theater, comedy, blah, 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 blah. And I actually have founded a nonprofit that I run, Heartland Arts KC. And right now we're in the middle of our Heartland Fellowship. So it's 6 artists that I'm working with, 2 comedians, a dancer, a poet, a musician, and an actress. I got that down.
Yes.
And we're learning about climate justice, and specifically what Kansas City is doing to address climate justice regionally. And Kansas City recently passed a piece of policy that's like a comprehensive plan for what we're going to do to combat the effects of climate change. And so I got these artists, and we're learning about this policy and then creating original work that explores it, makes it accessible, and is funny.
Yeah, it's really cool because Heartland helps teach artists how to be advocates of social justice. So not just like making a thing to have it be seen, but making things that are intentional to educate, to inspire people to have real change. So I think that's cool. I also work on it with him.
Wow.
I know.
That's crazy.
Such a shock learning all about you.
I know.
So, okay, so I'm going to make you do a thing. I have your poem from when you were 15, was it?
I think so. I think the date was 2013.
Okay, yeah. So
January 2013.
I want you to do your poem for us.
So this is the first poem I ever wrote.
And what's it about?
The title will tell you everything. This is life from the perspective of an iPod.
And for those of you who don't know, an iPod is something that used to exist. You would listen to music only. It's like a phone, but no texting, no calling, no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's strictly music. Now you have phones.
Yeah. So life from a perspective of an iPod. January 9th, 2013. As long as you live, every day the earth will be spinning. And no matter what you hear, do, or say, there will always be someone sinning. Meaning, there will always be someone sinned upon, and one day that time will dawn where it's your loved one being sinned upon, and in the blink of an eye, that loved one could be gone. And maybe you want to give up, lose all hope. Maybe you want it all to stop. But my friend, that's where I come in. The iPod. When you feel hopeless, your hope is gone, you just want to take a second to pause. You want to rewind time to see your loved one more time, but as a human, you can't do that. But being an iPod, I have the power. I can play, pause, fast forward, and rewind, but only for music and not all of time, not the world, the universe, or simply life. But back to the point. Being a human, which I presume you are, it's only natural for you to want to stop. Rewind, go back, to have a second chance, or to fast forward through hard times. But as you may not realize, no matter what you say, Earth, your life, this whole world is on play. So instead of living in the past, live on today, because tomorrow is not guaranteed, not for you or for me. And of course, you cannot fast forward, yet only look ahead. So you can take time to pause and don't be sad, or you could press play and just move on. So just keep in mind, just for the future, cannot change the past, but you can change the song. And that's just coming from me, the iPod.
Wow. Give it up for
Give another clap. Thank you.
Yes. The iPod. That's very deep.
That was very deep.
That was very deep.
And I'm looking at this. I'm like 2013 Logan, I guess, didn't put T's at the end of words. So all my justs were just wanna.
I just wanna be an iPod.
Wow. That took me back.
Throwback. Okay, that was great. So I have like one more question, which would just be, what are your goals career-wise as an artist?
Yes. So I have like my service goals and my selfish goals. Is that fair? That seems fair. My service goals are, with Heartland, I love being able to pour into other artists. I love working with other artists, and not just with my nonprofit, but, if you need someone to look at a script, if you got need some help with an audition, hit me up. But just being able to pour into artists at the highest level that I can. And with Heartland, being able to pour into artists in Kansas City is the number one thing. I mean, that's why we made this podcast. After today, we'll start having guests and we can highlight their stories and we can just really create more exposure, more opportunities for artists. And that's my big thing, is being able to help artists develop. I feel like Kansas City, the way it's set up right now, either you're good and you get cast, or you're not and you got to figure it out. But there's not a lot of places where you can go to those professional development opportunities that we had in New York or in Atlanta. There's not a lot of space for that in Kansas City. So I want to create that space. I want to work with artists. I want to help artists get better. So that is my service goal. But my selfish goal is that as a writer, I do want to be in writers' rooms. I love writing for television. So if you're hiring, I love writing comedy. I want to get back on stage. I want to act on TV. I still want to be able to be a multi-hyphenate. I feel like so far in my career, I've been able to sort of balance all of the things and I think of it as like a garden, and I've been able to keep watering each skill. And so I just want to see all of those through to the highest level that I can get them to. So really it just comes down to maximizing my potential across across all the fields that I'm in.
Yeah. Do you have any challenges that come up when putting yourself out there?
Yeah, definitely. I think first it's like a mindset battle of, because I do all these things, it's hard for me to market myself, or, how to figure out, what to call myself. I could go on TikTok, but one day I want to do like writing tips, and the next day I want to do acting tips, and they're like, you got to do one thing. And I don't know if that's just the voice in my head or, whatever. But that's the biggest thing, is just, but I guess we got this podcast now, so I don't have to do that anymore. They got a production team to do that for me.
And you married a woman who's in grad school for psychology, so maybe I can give you some
Yeah,
tips.
you can get my mind right.
You can help our minds, yes.
So yeah, just really the challenge to put myself out there is knowing how to, and knowing in Kansas City, without leaving to LA or leaving to New York, figuring out what can I build in Kansas City. And also, if there are opportunities to go to LA or opportunities to go to New York, just figuring out how to balance all that. And I guess being willing to, I guess there's always that level of fear of like, if something does pop off, then that sort of changes everything. So being able to accept that that is part of the process of eventually you do cross that threshold. And so maybe I'm saying this out loud, for like, yeah, and this is deep. It's that iPod poem got me in my feelings. But yeah, that's part of the process, is if you do want to take that next step, it's not all sweet after that. You just are, cue the spotlight. Once you're in there, you're in there. So yeah, that's the challenge. It's a mental game. I
like that.
Oh.
Well, thanks, husband.
You're welcome, wife.
Well, since I'm an aspiring, spiraling freestyle rapper, I think I should hit you with a rap cap.
What is a rap cap?
A rap cap's where I recap in rap.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to recap this whole conversation?
In rap.
Do you need a beat?
I think I need a beat for this. Logan and Michaela are married, and things are getting kind of scary. Okay, well, we're not having relationship problems. We're fine.
Run it back.
Okay. I'm recapping your part or my part?
I don't know. This is your idea.
Okay, this is the rap cap. Here we go.
Okay. Run it back.
Michaela wrote a book when she was 14. She was an angsty teen. It was kind of dark. It was kind of scary, but things are glowing up for this little girl. So then she met Logan Stacer in high school class. Please do not ask all the details. It was a little sketch. So then, where'd my beat go? Okay, run it back. Hey. Yes, so they did improv and they won. And I'm having a hard time rhyming for fun. Okay, Logan went to NYU. He really didn't have a clue what he was even gonna do. He couldn't even tie his shoe. But here he is. Glowing up. He made a business. Oh my gosh. You get the gist.
Yeah. Spiraling freestyle.
Like I said, an aspiring, spiraling freestyle rapper.
So I hope you got all of that from this podcast. Inspiration, aspiration.
And sometimes, you got to get your mind right. The
and a little bit of spiraling.
Yeah.
That's all part of the artist journey. And that's what we are here to highlight on the Cue the Spotlight. On the Cue the Spotlight podcast. So yeah, that's a wrap.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us on our first episode. We'll have a guest next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that. So keep tuning in.